All right. Hello, hello, hello. Sorry. I don't know exactly what happened, but hey, uh, I apologize. So I'm just going to end up deleting the last one so you don't have to get any interference between the two. I really have no clue what the hell happened last time. I apologize. I apologize. So either way, Gears of War, defining pillar. Well, uh, to start this off, we have to go not to the very beginning, but to the beginning far enough. Uh, Preschool. Yeah, that's what it's called. Preschool. Well, first off, let's get the formalities through. How are you guys doing today? You doing good? It's getting a little warmer out there, so I am actually not wearing my PJ shorts anymore, or PJ leggings, I should say, pants. I'm actually wearing shorts for once, basketball shorts. They're comfy to sleep in, man. Can you really judge me? They're comfortable, thin, maneuverable. It's the life, I tell you. So either way, hope you guys are having a great day. I'm doing well. Well enough. Just this little technical hiccup is a slight wrench in my day. But that's enough about that. So either way, let's get right into the meat of it all, right? I'm sure you're probably wondering what the hell am I talking about? Gears of War, defining pillar. Well, in order to kind of get caught up with the story, we have to go to the beginning. Not the very beginning when I was a baby, because I have absolutely no memories of that time whatsoever. But to the to preschool, or yeah, preschool. Now, where I went for preschool is different to where I currently reside. Uh, the place actually still exists to this day. I'm kind of a little surprised because it's rather small, but I guess they're still doing well, I suppose. People need their kids to be taken care of. So either way, at this preschool, let's just say that I wasn't exactly the most popular dude. Now, what I'm telling you for this story, I'm not trying to make you feel bad for me or anything. It's just how it went. So don't feel bad for me. I'm completely fine right now. Uh, so either way, all the way at preschool, I was not the most popular kid around. All the girls had basically broken up into larger groups of like 3 to 4 or all together sometimes. Meanwhile, the boys, on the other hand, had basically paired off. And then there was one, me. I, like I said, I wasn't exactly very popular, I guess. I used to get picked on by this kid who had some issues, let's put it that way. And my mom always taught me, or he used to, I guess, smack me or something. A messed up kid. Uh, yeah. So either way, my mom told me to fight back, but I never actually did. It's not in my nature, not really. I need to be really. I need to have a good reason in order to give someone a slug to really slug somebody, and apparently this one was a good reason enough. And I'm surprised that none of the, what would you call them, daycare takers or anything actually, broke up any of those fights or anything. The guy, well, it was normally like a one and done, and then he just kind of, fucked off or whatever. Like I said, the guy had issues. But either way, yeah, throughout all of preschool, I was alone. Some kids I was more friendly with on, civil terms, I guess you could put it. But really, we weren't exactly friends. I never hung out with them really at preschool, and I know 100% for certain that there is no time that I ever invited them over or they ever invited me over, for a play date or whatever, because that's what kids do. Yeah, I didn't get any of that. So, yeah, preschool. a lone wolf, pack of his own, on the hunt for I have absolutely no clue. I was pretty much ignored by everyone and did my own shindig. A little sad now that I think about it, but hey, if current me could go to smaller me, preschool me, I'd tell him, everything's going to turn out all right. You're going to meet some odd people as friends, but it'll all be cool, man. And he'd probably say, really? Odd? And I'm like, yeah, well, they're good kids at the end of the day. Well, either way, time moves on as it always does. Yeah, no, duh. And we advance ourselves up to elementary school. Elementary school rolls around. I get one friend that I declare is going to be the best friend I've ever had and forever and evers. Let's just say that statement was completely false. Uh, well, looking back at it in retrospect, now that I'm older and everything, smaller me was happy as a child, but current me sees that small me wasn't exactly very popular in elementary school either. Uh, I had a few play dates, like I think like maybe once every 2 years with the one friend I had, and then one with another friend that I had made during the fourth grade. Uh, but when I look back on it now, I see that for the majority of the part, I was more of a drifter, a floater, if anything. Uh, yeah, while the person may have, said that they were my best friend and that we were going to be friends forever, uh, I was left alone quite a lot. So I don't know if that's exactly friendship or whatever. Uh, we just really liked hanging out together during class, but class you're not exactly allowed to go out and talk to other people from other classrooms. And I did spend a majority of my time either in a far side of the grassy field, underneath the cover of trees, just I don't know, being alone with my own thoughts, or hanging out in the library reading all kinds of books. Yes, I spent a lot of time alone in there. And then, yeah, I used to do this other thing, which is kind of odd and I don't understand. Or I guess I kind of do, but it was just odd in general. So basically, what happened was there were cracks in the concrete in like this kind of shady area near a street. The street, it was gated off, so we couldn't go to the street. But right by the gate, there were cracks in the concrete right there, and I used to put leaves over the concrete because ants used to live there, and I was trying to give them shade. It was this odd concept. Uh, it had nothing to do with me watching, the movie The Ant Bully or ants or anything. It was just something that I did out of, for who knows what reason, my tiny mind thought that, that was fun. And I used to play with a couple of kids that had issues as well. They were a lot nicer to me. So for that, I appreciate it. And yeah, looking back on it, elementary school me was quite the loner. And there's this small little detail that I guess I'll talk about just because I have it on my mind right now. Uh, there was this other kid that ended up, I guess, kind of shoehorning himself in to the friendship that I had with, quote unquote, with those two other kids. And, during fourth grade and everything. And the kid, the one that I had since elementary or kindergarten, their parents were so insistent on becoming on him being on the on the friend becoming friends with that other kid that shoehorned himself in for I have absolutely no clue. My mom told me later that it was something about status or having connections or something like that, but I never really cared for any of that prestige. Uh, you know what? I'm gonna curse crap. Uh, so either way, uh, yeah, that was my elementary school days quite alone. Even if I really didn't know it, I went to an after school program as well for elementary elementary school, and well, for those people, I never actually hung out with them outside of you know after school. And there's one kid that I thought was also going to be a good friend, forevers and evers. But as soon as I left, they never texted me again. I always had to be the one initiating conversations. And I guess at some point I said, if they're never going to actually, start or anything, then what the hell's the purpose? Yeah, that's kind of happened to me quite a bit. I don't know why. It just kind of does. Maybe I rub people the wrong way. Oh God, I'm just telling you my life story. Well, not really, not the whole everything, but at least a good chunk. Not even a good chunk. So either way, middle school rolls around. These two kids end up going off their separate ways, doing more active stuff. Basketball and what's that thing called? Punch ball, or it's also called handball, I believe. Yeah. So once middle school started, sorry, I'm not crying or anything. Just you know, hiccup type of deal. So either way, yeah, middle school starts off. They distance themselves and eventually just stop hanging out altogether. So for I'd say probably 2 to 3 weeks, I ended up being alone. I remember one time it rained, and I don't know. I guess I was really sad that day or whatever. And there's an anchor as a part of decoration along with some other stuff. And well, I don't know why. I really didn't have any other friends that I thought I could rely on at the time. So while it was raining, I decided to put my umbrella and nestle it right in a good spot where the anchor would hold it, and I just kind of ate in the rain, you know, all curled up and everything underneath that umbrella. That was probably the saddest day I ever had, or one of them. It's definitely up up for grabs in the top five saddest days. Hell no. Current me kind of feels bad for past me. So either way, eventually Christmas rolls around, and I end up getting an Xbox for Christmas. I at that same time, an old friend also got me. Well, an older friend. They're older than me. Uh, got me Gears of War 3, recently released, and well, I had absolutely no clue what the hell Gears of War was, and I didn't even know that it was a series. I thought like maybe it was like Call of Duty, where every single Call of Duty game is its own sort of deal, and it's not like a concurrent running story or anything. Well, I know that. Well, now I know Modern Warfare and the Black Ops deal was kind of, or at least one and two of Black Ops was, you know, tied into one another. But back then, I thought they were all just kind of their own separate shindig, and I automatically assumed that for Gears of War 3. So I ended up booting up the game. I had absolutely no idea what the hell was going on, but I liked the gameplay, and it was a chainsaw attached to a machine gun. So I said, "Hey, how could this be a bad game?" And I nearly finished the entire game in a single day. It was good fun and everything. I really, really dug the game. Well, eventually my birthday rolled around, and I asked my grandpa while we were at Walmart if I could have the video game that had the first two Gears of War games in like a kind of bundle type of deal. Uh, yeah. So either way, I asked him, and Grandpa was all like, "Are you sure this is what you want for your birthday?" I'm like, "Yes, Grandpa." And he also ended up getting me Skyward Sword, the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword at the same time. So I ended up getting two video games for my birthday that year. It was quite a, it was quite rare for that to happen. So I was completely ecstatic and elated. Well, I played Gears of War 1, and holy hell, I put it on hard difficulty, not knowing what the hell I was getting into. A lot of dying, a lot of restarting, and that's not even the worst of it. In Gears of War 1, there's an enemy called a Berserker. They're all female, and they're really big, buff, and they're nearly blind, but so they rely on their hearing. And if they hear you walk, they go and they just charge right into you and turn you into a bunch of bloody chunks. Well, well, I wouldn't say a V lad, but I was younger and less experienced with, kind of, I guess, more hardcore video games than the Game Boy and Wii. So I died a lot. The first fight I know ended up taking me a few sessions to actually beat it, and I was always relieved by the end of it. None of the combat actually held me back or anything. Sure, I died a lot, but I wasn't frustrated because I kept getting closer and closer. But with these berserker fights, like holy hell, it was just another ballpark and everything. The next berserker fight I know ended up taking I ended up quitting for a little bit because I got frustrated and just moved on to number two. By that point, I had already finished number three, so I moved on to Gears of War 2 because I had grown frustrated. Well, eventually, I got to, I guess, what was like the halfway point of Gears of War 2. Went back to Gears of War 1, beat it, got up all the way to the final boss named Rom. Big dude, scary dude. He had these little bats that, were a part of the game and they scared the bejesus out of me. They were like piranhas of the sky in the darkness and everything. So, either way, yeah, I ended up giving up because this fight was so hard for me that I just couldn't do it. And, oh God. Yeah, I gave up for a couple months, finished Gears of War 2, went through number 3 again. And then eventually I looked up a YouTube tutorial and just kind of tried to follow it to the key, and I finally beat Gears of War 1. Now, by that point, eventually this one kid came out of transfer. He's actually in my streams. His name's Jay. I'm never going to tell it to him directly because he's going to call me a pansy or something. Uh, but let's just say that he's the first good friend that I really, really had. Someone that stuck with me through thick and thin, and actually has been quite an important person in my life. If I ever write a bibliography, he's definitely gonna be have a chapter just titled after him. Well, either way, this you see, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I used to do band during grade schooling years and all that. Well, one day I was waiting outside the band room for middle school. This kid was kind of just waiting there right by the door with me. I take one look at his shirt, and lo and behold, a, a white horse, and the rider upon him was death. Sorry, I just wanted to get that quip in. No, no, no. He did not have death on his shirt. He had a Gears of War 3 shirt on. And I said, oh, I don't even know why I talked to him. I guess the shirt just intrigued me that much because I never heard anyone else ever talk about Gears of War 3 at the school I went to. It was all, Call of Duty. I think League of Legends had just broken ground, StarCraft. No, unfortunately, no Warhammer 40K. That was something that came a little later once I got into my high school years. And so either way, yeah, I look at this kid and I say, "Hey, um, Gears of War 3, have you played it?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You like Gears of War 3?" He's like, "Yeah." I gotta admit that I was probably bothering him the first time we actually talked, and I was like, "Oh, cool! It's a cool game." So, what do you also? Because at that point, I had also spent a couple some time on the computer playing Bloons Tower Defense. And I was like, "Oh, have you played Bloons Tower Defense?" He's like, "Yeah, it's one of my favorites." I'm like, "Cool." And then somewhere we just ended up, hitting it off. It was that kind of spark moment. And we just got along and we continued talking about Gears of War 3. Uh, I know his favorite mode on it was the Horde mode. I was always just a big fan of the versus mode, you know, player versus player type of deal. But I know he liked Horde mode. Well, I've had him over a couple times, way more than the other two. Well, I should. I've been friends with him, significantly longer. Well, let's just say that we got quite good at horde mode whenever we played it at my house. And yeah, honestly, Gears of War is something that kind of ended up dragging me into this series of events that had me end up making friends with the people that I did today. Not necessarily because of Gears of War related, being directly related, but it was just kind of on that path along the way. How do okay, so yeah, eventually Jay and I started eating lunch together and everything, hanging out. And at that point, we were two lone lobos. And then eventually, one friend ended up joining me, one that I had been, I guess, on friendly terms with since elementary school. Well, eventually, he started coming more regularly, and then eventually, I talked to this one kid that I thought was a little weird because he had two pencils in his ears, like one in each ear, and actually made fun of him with Jay, and I said, "Man, what the hell's that guy doing? It's a little odd." He's like, "Yeah, it's a dumbass." I'm like, "Damn, son, you didn't have to be that up front." And that guy ended up being another good friend. Uh, I've met all my friends under odd and odder circumstances. Whew. Uh, so either way, honestly, I gotta say that I tribute all the friends that I have right now. All my friends are a bit of oddities, if I'm being perfectly honest. Every single one of them has their own little quips and quirks and everything. They're definitely not your average bunch, average Joes or anything. They certainly don't act like that. There's like one single dude that's the closest semblance to normal in the group of friends that I have. But we're all just kind of oddballs, and we just kind of stick together with that. Uh, but yeah, Gears of War 3 is something that actually ended up setting me down this path. It's because of hanging out with Jay, and I don't know, just somehow. Well, back then, back in elementary school, I had always thought that I wanted to be normal, to be, one of the popular kids and everything. But it was making that first connection with Jay, having an actual genuine friend that actually liked me for who I was and wasn't exactly, and and he never told me off for any of it or anything, and said, you're weird, which is something that I sometimes got from my other friends. Uh, yeah, you're probably wondering what happened with those two. Well, they ended up splitting later on from each other. One ended up doing tennis or badminton, one of the two. Uh, the other one ended up becoming more materialistic and centered himself around with people like that. The whole Gucci and all that type of deal, that whole culture. Now, that's definitely not my scene whatsoever. I'm more of a video game type of guy. And honestly, I got to attribute to the good friends that I do have now to Gears of War. Without that first connection, I don't know, maybe I would have ended up becoming an emo or a goth or something, but thank God I only became cringe. I may be cringe, but at least I'm free. So, yes, that's how I ended up with the gangle of oddities that I have for friends today. And there's absolutely no point where I'd take that back whatsoever. I like my friends with all their oddities. I know I keep saying oddities, but hell, I'm odd too. I keep watching films and I end up integrating some part of it, if I like it enough, into my dialect. Like I ended up picking the can you dig it type of deal from the first time I saw the Warriors, and it's just kind of been a regular part of my dialogue. Uh, but yeah, I honestly have to say that Years of War has made such an impact, and without that, I never would have had the friends that I do now. And well, Gears of War is a game I very much enjoyed. It's also kind of what really got me more into the more hardcore, I guess, quote unquote, hardcore. gaming. What I mean by that isn't necessarily like MLG or anything, because I never actually watched any of that. Uh, 1 second. So either way, yeah, I wasn't exactly. Yeah, Gears of War. There's absolutely nothing that I want to take back. Uh, Without Gears of War, I never like I keep saying the same thing I've been saying again and again and again, but I just can't stop myself because it's so important to me. Without it, I never would have, you know. God, I'm just reading. I sound like a broken record at this point. I'm starting to become my dad. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I respect and love the man. Uh, but yeah, Gears of War 3 as a video game itself ended up getting more me into actual, more stuff and everything. I got into Saints Row, the whole Far Cry series, and I wouldn't say the whole Far Cry series, but Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 5. Never had a chance to play 4, unfortunately. But Far Cry 3, if you're unaware, had a co op mode. Like, you played as it took place before Far Cry 3. You played as four guests on a ship that you, I guess, decide to rob. And my God, I spent an ungodly amount of time with that, with two friends in particular, Jay and another friend that I will keep anonymous in the dark. But yeah, it's because of Gears of War that I ended up turning into the person I am today. A single good game can actually change your life. It's like that whole saying where they say a single book can change your life. Well, a single video game can change your life, and Gears of War definitely did that for me. And I've spent, I have absolutely no clue as to how many hours I actually spent in Gears of War. I got very good at the game. Unfortunately, I think my skills are so rusty that I'd be a former shadow of what I once was, and it's not like you know, how do I say it? And it's not like Advance Wars where it's kind of slower paced, and eventually you pick it up. Gears of War 3 has always kind of been, this fast paced, cover to cover, miss your shot and they're gonna get you type of deal. It's also kind of what introduced me into what the hell DLC was. Up until that point, I had no clue what DLC was. I thought that DLC were like these just kind of standalone, kind of small versions of the game. Like there's that Skyrim DLC, the one with the vampires. Well, either way, that thing, I thought that it was like a small side adventure, and you could just buy that, and that would work fine by itself. I had no clue that it was, add-ons to a base game or whatever. But hell, I I liked Gears of War enough that I ended up getting the DLC for it once I figured out what the hell DLC was, and I got all the maps for multiplayer, and I ended up getting very good at each of those maps. That at some point I had memorized where every single gun was in every single map, and I eventually learned little secrets about each of the maps, like the one where you can have if you do certain things, you can end up starting one of those singing fish plates that are on a wooden, uh, I guess, kind of plaque or whatever. Yeah, there was that in the football. Oh, God, I'm forgetting their names, man. I used to remember them like the back of my hand. This other Thrash Ball Stadium, if you shoot at the big scoreboard in the middle, it can actually come down and crash and crush whoever's underneath and provide cover. Yeah, it was actually very cool. And it was kind of fascinating to me. The amount of time I actually spent in multiplayer mode is quite, I'd probably say ludicrous if I'm being honest. It was, Gears of War was definitely my favorite game of all time, and uh, as you may or may not have guessed, I by playing Days Gone, I've inadvertently outed myself as a PlayStation 4 dude. Now, how the hell did I go from an Xbox 360 to a PlayStation? Well, let's just say I was very close to getting an Xbox One. Uh, the breaking point was Gears of War 4 and a little game called Sunset Overdrive. Once I managed to find the parts to build a better PC, I'll stream that game. I'll stream that game. It's quite fun, and it doesn't take itself very seriously, which is good. I enjoy the humor. So it was those two games versus, uh, other stuff that had come out for the PlayStation 4 and was kind of looking like over, and I was like, hey, that's kind of hot. And then Gears of War, I was like, oh, only look at me. uh, Unfortunately, I could not stay true to Gears of War. Uh, a friend ended up getting an Xbox One, and I ended up playing Gears of War 4. And the first thing I asked myself was, what the hell happened? I don't know. The game, it was just an entire throwaway waste of a game. I didn't enjoy myself at all with it. I didn't enjoy the gunplay. I did not enjoy the story. I didn't like the characters. Nothing about it I liked. Something about it just really, really flipped me off. And I think it didn't help that I had played Gears of War Judgment, which is something I actively tried to leave out of my memories. Gears of War Judgment is a pre sequel to Gears of War 1. I often try to forget about it because it wasn't a very good one. It tried something different, but honestly, it just kind of fell flat on its face. And it wasn't very good. The thing that really pissed me off about Gears of War Judgment in general was that the versus mode, it's typically, with every other single Gears of War, it's man versus locust. Gears versus locust, right? And then someone at the new studio People Can Fly that had taken over the Gears of War IP, or they were working with the people, so they were partners. Someone had the great big brain idea that versus mode would only be humans, and they started. This is when these dumbass skins started coming out. Like it tried mimicking Call of Duty, or I guess, with these kind of absurd skins and everything. Whether it was seeing Baird or Cole look like a bee or have glowing skeleton neon on them, or just ridiculous in general. And it was like a smelling the wind, and you smell smoke, and when there's smoke, there's fire. And you know, playing Gears of War 4 on my friend's Xbox One, I said to myself, did they keep the skin system? And well, lo and behold, they did. I said, you know what? Screw it. Gears of War does not. It's not the same anymore. It doesn't respect the player. It's decided to sell out and try to become something else that it really isn't. Try to, I guess, draw in more people, an audience, and that's when I jumped ship from Gears of War. And that's when I switched over to the PlayStation. And with PlayStation, I ended up playing with some more friends online than I ever would have if I had chosen the Xbox instead. That's throughout all of my high school years, I ended up playing the PlayStation with one of my good friends, Rob Hot, who's also in my streams. He's a good kid and all, very nice in general. uh, Unfortunately, he gets a little lost in himself, and he forgets the whole meaning of teamwork. But yeah, throughout all of high school, it was Robin and I against the world on a PlayStation, and then eventually my boy Jay dropped in, and then eventually, well, recently I should say, I ended up picking up another boy, Darian, who was in the first Vermintide stream. But yeah, Gears of War, it kind of became well, no, a pillar in my life. Uh, Both the good and the bad. The good being that it helped me form relations and everything with other people and actually have something to bond over with and just kind of create this camaraderie with, other people. Well, very specific people, but it was camaraderie nonetheless and enjoyment, hours and hours of enjoyment. And it also signaled the transition into me becoming, I guess, a more diverse gamer in terms of platforms where I eventually, picked up the PlayStation. Then I got a Vita for Persona 4 Golden. And then I eventually started slowly transitioning into Steam and, this whole ordeal. So, even though Gears of War may not be what it once, the glorious version that it once was in the past, um, I still have, I still will show some deference and appreciation to it for the positives that it did give me. And honestly, I'm trying to figure out how to get a working Xbox 360 emulator because my friend Jay and I were talking, and I was thinking like, hey, we haven't played Gears of War in a while. I was like, and he was like, oh, I could probably get a emulator working, and we could go through Horde mode again. And I was like, fucking a right, man. uh, Looking back and playing some old games just to reflect and think about all these old memories is kind of nice. I'm starting to sound like I'm old. I'm an old person. I'm not even old enough to drink. Uh, yeah, I'm not old enough to drink. Yes, I do live in the United States, if that's what you're curious about. So that's some indication. I'm in college, so that should also tell you something. I'm not a minor. Don't fuck. Don't mess around with me. Put my dukes up. But either way, yeah, I'm starting to sound like an old man thinking about the movie. Uh, I think I have legitimate criticism about Gears of War, and I don't think I'm just some bitter person who's kind of, who's grown jaded about seeing something that he, devoted so much of his life to, and see it form into something else. It's not that type of deal because, well, yeah, I don't think that's in me. I don't think. But then again, I am looking through my perspective, so everything might be changed and switched around or whatever. But yeah, I do think that the series has kind of taken a dip right now. I heard Gears of War Tactics was good, so maybe one day I'll give it a try. But as for mainline Gears of War games, I apologize. I think for now I'll just leave that aside. And until they eventually get strong writing and characters that I'll actually care about. Because I absolutely don't recall anything about the cast of Gears of War 4. They were very. I mean, of course I remember them, but there was just nothing memorable about them. Not Baird and his snarky, sarcastic comments. The Cold Train with his woo woo, and his just natural charisma and flair and everything. Dom for being a good friend and a deep brother in arms that's been there since Gears of War 1, and Marcus for being that kind of hardened veteran, but also, cares for the people around him. I got nothing from the new Gears of War cast, and I may not actually touch any of the new Gears of War games for as long as I live, just purely because I don't, I, I wouldn't say necessarily out of spite, but I don't appreciate to see, I don't like looking at what they've become. And honestly, it's kind of the downturn of my memories about the game. A little bit sad, but hey, everything's been okay from there. So, I apologize. This is all the time I have for today. I wish the stream had gone on for a little bit longer, but due to unforeseen uh, technical difficulties, we kind of have to cut it short. Because I do also, I'm actually going to go spend some time with my friends right now, playing video games, of course. Hey, maybe if they're good boys today, maybe I'll stream or whatever that part. But either way, I want to thank you guys for coming and listening to an old man's tale. I think the one word that I can think about with this conversation is a wistful gaze at the past. Or I should say, phrase, a wistful gaze at the past. So, either way, uh, I want you guys to have an awesome day. Uh, Maybe thank the friends around you. I don't know. You never know. Yeah, have a great day. Spend time with the people you care about. Remember, friends are people you choose. Family is a bit of an oddity for me. Family is blood. Blood really doesn't mean much to me. There's something that Robots told me that I've kind of taken to heart now. He says, I don't have any friends. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And he says, I only have family. That's kind of true. Blood doesn't matter to me anymore. Family are the people that stand by you every single day. And when you end up taking a beating, they're the people who are going to be there to pick you up. They're the people that are there to fight by your side and hang with you throughout thick and thin. Now, I'm not saying, well, I still love my mother and father, my grandfather, and everything, but some members of my family I really don't feel close at all. And I'd consider my friends more family than those people ever will be, if I'm being entirely honest. So just remember that. It's life lessons. If there's anything you'll take from me, if, I ever end up stopping or whatever, this is the one thing I want to be remembered. I want you guys to take away and remember for the rest of your life. Your friends are the people you choose, and honestly, they're kind of your the family you choose. I'm getting all sappy now. So either way, I want you guys to have a great day. Make sure to take care of yourselves. Stay frosty, and I'll see you on the other side of the day. I'll be back tomorrow for sure. Maybe a little bit more advanced wars. All right, I'll see.